Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the Aloha Friday video podcast. As we always say every week, it just gets more and more exciting. I have to tell you, if I'm totally honest, it's sometimes kind of crazy in the back of all of this, getting all the technical stuff ready for these shows. But it's so fun to be here every week, as you know, we're gearing up and we're getting more and more people, you guys watching and coming on. If you're just barely logged on, please go ahead and put in the comments where you are coming in from. You know, where are you watching from? Because we know that we have alumni and from students from all over the world. So we love to see that. Also, my name is Becky Sampson, and I am with the Ho'okele Department, and Alumni Relations is one of the departments within that department. And some people, you know, we had a meeting yesterday, if I may say just for a second, we had a meeting that was talking about people really don't understand what the Ho'okele means. And I just wanted to take a brief moment and kind of explain to you, the Ho'okele Department is actually a fairly new department as of a year ago. And Ho'okele means navigation in Hawaiian. And it basically, this Ho'okele Department is the touch points for all the students, as you know, before they come here, recruitment to admissions to new student orientation. We've also got the career services. We've got alumni relations, and we just adopted also into our department, which is awesome, is the financial aid and international student services. So it's a big department, but the Ho'okele Department is the one that's hosting these video podcasts. We felt it was really, really important several months ago that we bring in the alumni of this beautiful university and get them telling their stories. And just from you guys' response, it's been amazing to see how much you guys have enjoyed these. So give us a little thumbs up or yay, you know, if you're liking what we're doing. If there's anyone that you'd like for us to bring on, please, you know, just send an email to the alumni@byuh.edu. We also, we just wanted to kind of give you a quick teaser. We're starting another podcast next week. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that one at the end of the show. But if you have anything during the show, any questions, any comments, please put them in the comments box and we will get to you as soon as possible. I see that you guys are coming in from Washington State, Atlanta, Kiora, watching from Perth, Washington. So welcome everybody, and I'm really excited. I'll tell you one thing. I'm really excited about this podcast today because Miss Nancy Tarawhiti. I practiced this all week. Like, wait a minute. Tarawhiti. Okay, tell me how you say your name.
Tarawhiti.
Tarawhiti. Did I get it somewhat close?
Sure.
Okay, be patient with me, people. Look, I'm human too. Like when I get nervous, I'm like, I can't, you know, okay. Anyway, well, welcome Nancy to the show. And I wanted to tell everyone how excited I am that you're here because you are actually one of my professors, Dr. Nancy. That's what I should call you, is Dr. Nancy. So tell everybody, so welcome to the show, and tell everybody kind of who you are and where you came from. If people don't know who you are, I know a lot of people do, but kind of give us a little rundown.
I'll just quickly correct you when you said Marcia was from Perth, Washington. She's actually from Perth, Western Australia. That's what the W.
Thank you.
Yes. Actually, I'm just going to give a little introduction in Māori. In New Zealand, we give a little background of who we are, where we came from, and where our parents and our tupuna came from. So I'm going to do that. So, kia ora koutou, ko Nancy Tarawhiti toku ingoa, ko tainui te iwi, ko taupiri te maunga, ko waikato te awa, ko Ngāti Whawhaki a te hapu, ko te kauri te marae, ko Tarawhiti te whānau. And that's how we introduce ourselves in New Zealand. It just gives us some background, people understand where we came from, and I wanted to do that in Māori.
That's awesome. And I think that's something that you talked about actually in class the other day, is that people kind of give their lineage when you're, is that what you did?
Yes.
Oh, I love that. And by the way, for people who have not taken Nancy as a teacher, and we'll get into like how she ended up in that role, but she's by far one, I will say, Nancy, I'm not just saying this because you're my teacher, but you really, I have told you on numerous occasions that I really appreciate the way that you teach, because it's not, it's way deeper level of different, how do I say that, different ways of teaching so that it sticks, right? So I don't know how to say that, but I really appreciate that about you. So yeah, tell us a little bit. You started you're from New Zealand.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Take it away. Do you want your slides or?
Sure, I'm going to show some slides, and this kind of gives a really good overview of where I've come from and to where I am right now. And so my family is pretty much what's grounded me and helped raise me in principles and values and beliefs. And in New Zealand, the Māori word for family is whānau, which is what I've got there, whānau. This is actually designed by my brother, and it's actually a silver fern, which is the flower, the leaf that's used in a lot of New Zealand representation, sports and people, and so that's where I'm from. And I grew up in a little place called Templeview, Hamilton. There was a church high school there called Church College of New Zealand, and it was a small community actually, just like Laie. Everybody was helpful to everybody. Everybody knew each other. We could go to anybody's house for dinner and be okay with it. And my parents were dorm parents at the high school there. And so we grew up in that community, and I really loved it. And there's actually a website called Templeview Brats Facebook page. And and we are all offspring from a lot of the people in this picture that were raised and actually helped build the school and the temple. And so there's a lot of legacy that comes through that community. And so I've always been raised in those small communities that people know each other, which is why I feel so at home here in Laie. So I was a student at Church College. I wasn't necessarily a scholastic person, but I did love the sports and the culture that we did there. And for me, I danced Māori culture there. It was like a little mini Polynesian cultural centre, and we did Māori and Hawaiian and Tahitian and Samoan, and so we did that growing up in high school, and I absolutely loved it. Actually, I think any awards that I did receive from Church College were all culturally related as opposed to scholastically related. I just found my scholasticness later in life.
Well, and that's you and I talked about that. That's okay. I kind of had the same experience, and sometimes I think people feel like you have to be really good at it and to be successful, and that's something that we talked about that's not necessarily the case.
Right. And I think everybody's journey is very individual and unique too. And at high school I didn't know what I wanted to do. Even at BYU Hawaii as an undergrad I didn't know what to do. And so I like that you mentioned that. At Church College is when I graduated from high school. Interestingly enough, in New Zealand we follow the British system of schooling, and they don't have graduation at high school. We do that because we came under the church, which is very Americanized. And so we probably are one of the only high schools in New Zealand that have a high school graduation. Most of the high schools have prize giving, but not necessarily a graduation. And so I love seeing my graduation pictures because it just shows the extent of progression. And so this was when I graduated from high school. And when we finished high school, Uncle Tommy Taurume came down to New Zealand, and he auditioned 120 students because they were looking for Māori students to dance in the Māori village in the Māori night show. So they had a lot of dancers here. They just didn't have a lot of Māori dancers. And so my brother and I were 2 people that auditioned, and they accepted 12 of us to come over here and on a PCC scholarship, which is now called the iWork scholarship. There's a lot of change from when I was a student to how it is now. But that's what brought us to Hawaii. I didn't necessarily want to come to school. I wanted to come to dance on an even bigger stage than what I had.
I know. And that's what's cool. You did mention when we were talking before, you mentioned that, I mean, I'm sorry, how many people did they audition?
They auditioned about 100 people, and Uncle Tommy went around New Zealand. And yeah, my brother and I were so blessed to get in. Actually, I remember my brother's audition right to this day. It was so powerful that he must have done like 3 seconds, and Uncle Tommy said, "You can stop now."
You said, "No, you're on."
Yeah, so that was a great opportunity for us. Mm-hmm. Now, we left home. We'd never even been on a plane, actually. It was our first time on a plane. And we came over with like $300 between us, and that was it. Mm-hmm. We were blessed that we had friends and relatives here. Our cousins, the Kaka family, were here. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of helped us out and took us under their wing. So this is me when I was a student here. Look at me. I look so great back then. I had long hair back then. Most of us did. Because we actually weren't allowed to cut our hair. If you danced night show, you couldn't cut your hair. And I cut my hair once, and I nearly got suspended, actually, without pay. So I was like, I'm so sorry. So my hair grew longer and longer the whole time I was here. This is a picture of me going to class. And I really wanted to show this picture because I'm carrying books and paper. Students that come to class nowadays, it's such a different dynamics. Some kids will come with nothing but their phone, ready to take pictures and type little messages on their phone. So this was great. And this picture here, I actually was living in Hale 5. Hale 5 was a girls' dormitory back then. Right now it's a boys' dormitory, and we only had the 2 levels. And I lived right on the bottom on the corner. I often drive past my old room and reminisce. This is the old cafeteria. I'm not too sure what the cafeteria right now is under renovation, which I'm really excited about. It's great to see the renovation of the school. Some of my friends who are students here, they're not really happy with some of the changes that have been made, but it's a very different school now than when it was when we were at school. Mm-hmm. I know some people were really disappointed with the sports program being taken away, but when we were students, everybody went to the sports games. Everybody went to volleyball, basketball. It was a great event. But nowadays, there's not a lot of people that'll go. They'll just watch everything later online. And so it's better to put money into something other than that. And we do that with the scholarships that we have for students. So I loved the care food, FYI, back then. This is me going to church. I actually had a waistline there too. It looks great. This is my friend Kokoroa. I don't even know her married name. In fact, my friends that I had when I was at school here, I still call them by their maiden names because that's what I knew them mostly by. Mm-hmm. And this is out in between at our dormitory as well. I loved the ward aspect of going to school here. This is one of the wards that I was in. It was the 3rd ward. And we actually went on a trip to Maui. Our ward did. We raised money. We were allowed to do that back then. I'm not too sure we're allowed to do that now.
Really?
Yes, and as a ward, we went to Maui for the weekend. We went to church over there. We did different activities. And this is our ward in Maui.
And so where did you guys stay? Just curious, when you go as a ward over there.
We stayed with families, actually, in the ward that were there. We took the road to Hana, and we stopped at all these different places. And we stopped at this is the first place we stopped at, actually. And there were some guys jumping off a rock, and I was like, well, I'm not going to let the guys just jump off the rock. So that's me. I walked up, clothes and all, jumped off.
Way to show them how it's done.
Yeah. But I had such a great love for this ward and friends that I had in this ward, and we're actually still really good friends to this day. And we get together as BYU Hawaii alumni, and it's great. So at school here, I didn't just have people that I came with. There was a ward family. There was students in my classes classmates. And then I was blessed to come with my brother. So that's my brother and my sister-in-law, Kenra, my brother Wayne, and myself. And Wayne came here and he met his wife, Kenra, here actually. And he went on his mission and came back. She was so valiant and waiting for him. She was so committed to him. It was great. And they got married and came back here and finished off their schooling here. And Wayne ended up, when he graduated, worked for PCC, and Kimra worked in the health centre here actually.
Wow.
Recently, when I went to the health centre, one of the nurses there asked me about her. So that was great to make that connection. And so these were just friends. And then I had my younger brother, Jason. That's Jason there. And he came to school while Wayne was on his mission. So I wasn't on my own for too long, actually. And then later on, my younger brother, Sinclair, came. And he met his wife, Tina, here. And, well, actually, he met her in New Zealand, but they got married here in New Zealand. So BYU Hawaii has such a great meaning for our family, our whānau. We love that we met so many people here, so many friends, and that we were able to build the relationships here. And we still have really tight relationships with people there. So, yeah, it's been a great place for us. I was also a dancer at the Polynesian Cultural Centre. This is the old canoe show. We actually had a pavilion for the canoe show, and we ran the canoe show 4 times a day. We didn't go down all the lagoons like they do now. And I was a narrator for the canoe show at one stage.
Oh, wow.
Yes, with my New Zealand accent. I think some of the tourists got a bit of a tickle out of that. And I also danced on the canoe show when I wasn't narrating. So this is me dancing in the Tahitian section. So the pavilion that we danced in for the canoe show there is now one of the luau's they've actually created. That's where you go to the luau. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing the transformation of the Polynesian Cultural Centre actually. So because this was like a big lagoon, that they now have half of it is where the performers perform at the luau, and then the rest is all tables and chairs. And so it's been a privilege actually to see the transformation of the Polynesian Cultural Centre and be part of that legacy. We're very grateful, myself and my brother.
I was going to say that's, it has the school, like you mentioned earlier, the school and the PCC have gone through quite a transformation over the years and evolved, I should say.
Yes.
And some things, stick around, and some things, they're always doing stuff to improve it. And it might be it's interesting to probably go back when you go, wait a minute, we had that experience there. And, but anyway, yeah.
And I think the evolution is necessary, just like you said. It makes it fresh and not so stagnant. And the students that are coming now are actually a different to students that were here 10, 20 years ago. I can just see in the comments section, one of my students, Axel, he was my student last semester, and he's tuning in. So it's great to see you, Axel.
I know, he says that you're one of the best professors.
He's so and so here I am talking about when I was here 30 years ago, and here is one of my students who I taught last semester, who did really good in my class, by the way. I also dance in the Māori section here, and at the top of the screen you can see David Tiawe, who works in the night show there. Off to the left there you can see Ori Keikoha. She is what's her last name now? Sorensen, I think is, yeah. And she works in the CLT department. Tauriki Numanga, who is, what's her last name? Kalama. She works for the Polynesian Cultural Centre, and there's other people there. Actually, there's Mamoi, who works here in the International Students Office, I believe.
So Mamoi, yeah. I was told that he's very, very talented.
He was a great dancer, and that's Mamoi at the top there.
I'm going to have to ask him to dance on Monday when I see him.
And I also dance in the night show, and this is the night show here. We all look so young and fresh and amazing back then.
And you said you did how many night shows a night?
Well, it was interesting. In the summertime, we got so many tourists that we would do a double show nearly every night.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we would dance the show twice. And I think someone asked me, why do you think they don't do that now? Maybe it was you, Becky, that asked me that. And I just think maybe we were just better dancers back then. I'm like,
I love that answer, right? It's not because we don't have as many tourists.
Yes.
It's because we're better dancers.
Well, and I think tourists are coming back several times now.
Mm-hmm.
And so people that have already been to the Polynesian Cultural Centre, they just need to know that things are different now. There's different things to see and do. Back then, if you danced more sections in the night show, you actually got more money. So I danced Māori was my first section, and then I danced Hawaii, and this is me in my Hawaii costume. And I danced Tahiti, so you can see the chick-ching and more money there. And then I danced Samoan. And I love this picture. It shows you the vast amount of people that we had on stage at one time. And this is just one section. And so the Polynesian Cultural Centre I loved my time there more so than schooling. But as I was getting towards the end of my schooling, I realized I could actually graduate with a degree as well. And so that was something that I really wanted to aspire to. I wasn't the greatest student here as an undergrad because education wasn't something that was big for me in my mind. And I didn't find the love for education until a little bit later in my life. But I loved dancing at the Polynesian Culture Centre.
You had mentioned that about the education. It's a really interesting thing because you've got now a PhD. That's why you're a doctor. But so I was going to ask you about what was your favorite thing about dancing and performing at the PCC?
You know, we had lots of opportunities to meet different people, celebrities. We got to tap out of school actually for a couple of hours and just have fun. It was great to get to night show and see everybody. Sometimes we wouldn't see people that we danced with during the day, but at night time we always did. And there were some nights that I enjoyed dancing more than others, but for the most of it, it was such a great experience. I didn't like dancing when it rained because we were in an amphitheater, so we got wet and the audience did not get wet. But
the show must go on, right?
Yes. And I always enjoyed dancing for family and friends that came to visit, and so it was a great opportunity. My brother Jason danced in the village. I never danced in the village actually. I always just danced night show and canoe show. And so that's him in the village. And I also used to narrate a keiki fashion show. This was pretty cool. So we had kids come out and they would show their costume and I would explain their costume. And this was just before the night show. So people that were sitting around waiting, and then the kids would dance. And it was funny because I think the kids were taller than me, but they were great. And, some of the kids in that keiki fashion show are now married with children. And we're still good friends. That's the great thing about BYU Hawaii, that friendship, the relationships just go on and on. So I really love that. One year we had Disney come to the Polynesian Cultural Centre.
Really? Oh my goodness.
So the Disney characters came. It was for like maybe 2 weeks, I think. And they were scattered. The Disney characters were scattered throughout the Polynesian Culture Centre. And then they would come up before the shows. And so my roommate at the time was Adele Wirihana. Her married name, I'm not too sure what that is. It'll come to me. Wedapa, that's her married name now. And so we got to take a picture with Mickey Mouse. But yeah, we had Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy, Pluto, Daisy, Minnie Mouse, and they were here for like 2 or 3 weeks. It was a great experience. Yeah.
That'd be such a neat. I can just visualize all the Disney characters all around the villages. That's so cool. Well, and I don't know if I've talked to you about this, but I still need to find out if it's true or not. But somebody said that Disney came here before, and that's where they got the idea for Epcot Center. I don't know. I'm gonna check my stats on that.
I can't remember what year they came, but they were here for like 2 weeks, and they would walk around the villages. And then they would do a little performance before the night show, and we had a marketplace then, and they would do it then. And so, yeah, it was great. So I really wanted to show this picture of.
Could you imagine wearing that suit in this weather?
You know, this is President Grace, who is now currently the president of the Polynesian Culture Centre. And I crashed a double date with him and his wife, and my brother and his wife. And President Grace, when I was dancing night show, he was actually on the spotlights. And he wasn't very good because he'd always miss me, and I'd have to walk around to the spotlight instead of the spotlight walking around with me. But it's great to know that that's, you know, he started out doing spotlights or maybe even something else, and now he's the president of the Polynesian Culture Centre.
You never know. Yes.
I think he still looks the same, actually.
Yeah, he does.
But yeah, I loved finding this picture, and I said, I'm going to show that. And then I graduated. This is my sister and I. We were back in that day, we were allowed to sit next to each other. We were set alphabetical order, actually. And so because we both had the same last name, we would be able to sit next to each other. So that was great.
Oh.
And when we graduated, you were allowed to yell and cheer after anybody, unlike now. So it took a little bit longer, but it was great to hear your family cheering for you as you walked across the stage. This was a great achievement for me. And so yeah. Years later, the Polynesian Culture Centre came to Utah, and they were walking and dancing in the parade at the Pioneer Parade up in Utah, and all the alumni that were there. And I was up there at that time. I was teaching and collecting data for my PhD research. And so we all got together and we danced with them for that. And I believe the Polynesian Cultural Centre won an award as one of the floats for that parade. And so I love that. Sorry?
I said, wow.
Yeah.
In Utah, they had the parade, yeah.
Yes, and they had a float, and each of the floats won awards, and the PCC float won an award. Oh. And it had the dancers, the kids that were dancing currently at PCC, and then we walked and danced behind them. And David Tiabi actually came up to Utah, and we all learnt the dance together, and our bones were a little creaky from when we... Not like when we used to dance years ago. So it was great to see all the alumni come together and be willing to be part of that. But my BYU Hawaii's really did set the tone for what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And once I graduated and went back to New Zealand, I was in different industries because I graduated in administration. I was really interested in doing something at an administrative level. And I worked with the New Zealand Dairy Board. I worked with air traffic control. And I got to a point that isn't really what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until then that I realized that I wanted to be a teacher, specifically in the TESOL arena, because you have a lot of freedom to, in your teaching, in your pedagogical practices and the type of materials that you wanted to develop. And that's when I went to BYU Provo.
She went to the other side. No, I'm just kidding. It's okay. Provo's good too.
When I was at BYU Provo, I applied to the TESOL Masters program. That's what I did there. Yeah, and I was there for 2 years, and at the same time, my parents got called to be mission presidents. So we both went to Utah together, my parents and myself. And my parents were in the MTC. And the very first day of school, and my teacher was Neil Anderson, who is currently a professor here. I had to call him on the very first day of school and ask if I could be excused to be late because I wanted to go and see my parents being set apart by Elder Elton Perry to be mission president. So, and he was so great. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. I was going to leave a message on his phone, but he was in his office and he answered and he said, you go and enjoy that experience. And so I was so grateful to him that he told me that.
So
and then, so I graduated from BYU Provo with an MA in TESOL and also with a TESOL certificate. So I spent 2 years there. And I have these are some of my students and friends that I gained there. So then I gained another family, also a community at BYU Provo, but that community is so much larger, so much further. And so my parents, I'll meet a lot of the students here who knew my parents as mission presidents. And then also my parents were MTC mission presidents in New Zealand. And my parents I met a lot of students here that say, oh, your parents were my MTC mission presidents. And I just see on the comments there, McLean Sosuru, he's just saying that my parents were his MTC mission presidents. So,
cool.
Yeah. So our family stretches far and wide. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say something that you said the other day I thought was really interesting, because you said when you first got here, I mean, you created a community when you came to BYU Hawaii, and now you're saying you went to BYU Provo and there was a whole other community there and people were connected, and really a lot too. And then your parents, I mean, eventually, I know we're going to get to this, but your parents ended up being service missionaries out here, so they were connected to people that you knew, and and that's something I love about not only being in the church but also being in this community of BYU, is because we're all connected.
And that's exactly right. The friends that I had in the program at BYU Provo is like another group of friends that I had from the friends that I had at BYU Hawaii here. Neil, who was my mentor, my supervisor on my MA committee, and is now a professor here. He's retiring at the end of spring this year, actually.
Oh.
He was my mentor throughout all my education process. And something really interesting about him, when I first got to Utah, I hated it there. I hated the food, I hated the people, I hated the weather. I just was really struggling. I'd only been there a week. And I remember getting on my knees one night and asking the Lord, am I really supposed to be here? Because I am not liking it. And I'm lonely and it's not a great thing. And I felt a really a firm confirmation in my prayer that, you know what, you just need a friend, and I'm going to give you a friend. You be watching out, because you're going to recognize this friend as soon as you see this friend. And so the next day I got dressed to go to school. I was all dressed up. I was thinking, oh, I'm going to find a friend. Maybe it's a male friend. And I remember walking across campus saying hello to everybody. I'm like, hi. And in my head, I'm thinking, are you my friend? Are you my friend? And I went to class and I was thinking, well, maybe it's someone in my class. And Neil was my professor for that class. And I sat there a little bit discouraged because I was thinking, oh, I haven't found this friend that I'm supposed to have. And then Neil asked me a question. He looked me straight in the eye and asked me a question. And straight away I went, are you serious? This man with the bow tie, this is my friend? And it was so pivotal. I must have been about 3 days later, he called me in and asked me if I wanted to be his research assistant. And I was his research assistant throughout my MA program. He was my supervisor on my MA committee. He was a supervisor on my PhD committee too, actually. And in the absence of my parents at BYU Provo, he gave me blessings in the absence of my father, which, I can tear, I think about that, which I'm very grateful to.
Well, God, that's something that we talk on this show a lot about, is also the pivotal people and the pivotal moments. And God does have a very strange sense of humor sometimes.
Yes. He was he's been so pivotal in my life, and I'm really excited for him to retire because he's had a great educational life. The dean of our department up there at that time was Lynn Henriksen, who was also a professor here at BYU Hawaii. And so those Hawaii connections never, ever left me. I was very blessed to speak at my graduation, my convocation up in Provo. And I'm just going to share a quick story about this. My parents couldn't attend because they were mission presidents at the time. And I had to go early. They said, come early so we can, do the mic and the podium for you. So when you stand up, it's going to be right there. And I went early, and there was two speakers, myself and another girl. And I sat down, and the other girl sat down next to me. She goes, hi, are you speaking today? I said, I am. She said, so am I. She said, are your parents here? And I said, no, they can't make it here because they're mission presidents in Papua New Guinea. And she said to me, well, come and meet my dad. I went, oh, no, that's okay. But her dad was Henry B. Eyring.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so she took me to meet her dad, and I said, oh, this is your dad? And she told him that my parents were serving, and he said, well, we are so grateful to your parents. So I was like, okay, now I'm speaking. And now I'm speaking in front of President Irene and his daughter. So I was grateful for that. My brother was there at my graduation and lots of good friends. And that was a really special experience, actually. And I'll never forget that.
What a beautiful, I love that about the church too, is we get all these opportunities to stretch and grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I was also at Provo, I met Mark Wolfersberger, who is the dean of our college. And I actually met him through his wife because I knew his wife's parents. And I've actually followed Mark in his educational career. He went back to New Zealand to do a PhD. I followed him back there. Then he came here, and then I followed him here. And now he's my boss, my colleague, and the dean. And Neil is working with me too. So I've loved that BYU Provo community as well. That's been so helpful for me. When I finished at BYU Hawaii, I went back to New Zealand, BYU Provo, sorry. I always say Hawaii instead of Provo, which is okay, actually, because
it's where your heart is. We know.
I went back to New Zealand and got my PhD at AUT, which is Auckland University of Technology. And I got my PhD under Professor John Bitchner, who's really big in our field on written corrective feedback. He was tough on me, but I'm so grateful for the tough. It's the tough that got me through. And we are such great friends to this day. My parents were so proud of me. My parents didn't even finish high school, I don't think, actually. Oh, no, they did finish high school, but that's the extent of their education. And so they have always been proud of me for extending my education as much as I wanted to. And, I only got the PhD because I realized that I wanted to teach at a university. And I didn't want to not get a job because I wasn't qualified. I didn't want someone else to get it just because they had more qualifications than me. The PhD was probably the hardest time of my life. I thought it was going to be easy, actually, but the jump from the master's to the PhD is huge. It's a lot more in depth, and it's a very isolated situation. In the British system, there's no coursework for the PhD. It's all research. And so to sit by myself for 10 hours a day was really challenging. But, the Lord was so good to me in saying, you got to focus like a laser.
So is this the one that you told us about in class the other day that made you go at 8 in the morning and then,
Yeah. And I was willing to do that, actually, put in those hard yards, because the end year, I think, my first year doing my PhD, I thought, I'm home and I got a full ride scholarship. My dad is from Tainui descent and I got Tainui funding. And for the first year, I kind of just hung out with all my cousins. I was thinking, I need to do something here. And as a result, I was crunching towards the end there. But I loved the opportunity to do a PhD, especially back in New Zealand. I was so happy to get a degree back in New Zealand. I hadn't done that. And I didn't want to get all my degrees from BYU as well. And it was, my graduation was awesome, because in New Zealand, when you graduate, if your family wants to chant, and my family did a haka when I got up there, they actually stop everything and let your family finish. It's very respectable, and I love that. I was actually the last person to walk across the stage of the whole graduating of the undergrads and the graduates. And when you graduate, they actually put your dissertation topic up the top there. And then you put your cap on, and then you sit up on the stand with the professors. You don't go back down. So, that was really special for me too. And when I finished that, I wanted to come back here. I actually taught at BYU Provo for a few years. I taught freshman composition writing, first year writing, and I taught TESOL courses for the TESOL minor courses. And the teaching was great up there, but I wanted to give back to my people, actually, my people of the Pacifica and the Asian people, who the target audience here. So I couldn't wait to get back here. And so I came back, and when I came back, my parents came a year later. They came here to serve a service missionary at the mission at the Polynesian Cultural Centre in the New Zealand village. They were only supposed to stay a couple of years, actually, and they ended up staying 5. And they only left because of COVID. But I'm grateful that they got to experience what we did when we were students here, and they absolutely loved it. They're so funny. They go, we're really good friends with Delsa, and I'm like, we knew Delsa way before you knew Delsa.
I was hoping that you'd bring that up. I was like, okay, I'd love that story. That they're like, wait a minute. We know her. No, I know her.
I had to keep reminding them that, we had established ourselves and our family name here way before they came. My dad always says that they came back to raise the reputation of our family name, but they loved everything that the PCC stood for. They loved working in the village. They loved all the kids in the village. My mother would get up in the morning and make trays of food. I'm like, who's this for? She goes, for the students, for the kids in the village. I'm like, they are not struggling with malnutrition. None of those kids are. But they would cook them dinner. And, since they've left, I'm trying to do a better role of doing that in the place of my parents, because my parents are very charitable. They love to open their doors to anyone. They will invite anyone. Since the kids have been on COVID down in New Zealand, they've all stopped in to see my parents, had a big meal, stayed the night in some cases. And so I try to do that for our kids here in New Zealand.
Yeah. I remember I told you the other day too, I met them when I first got here, and just lovely, lovely people, just beautiful people.
I loved having them so close by to me too. So yeah, I do miss them. I miss not having them here, but they're safer in New Zealand actually right now. I love being here and seeing a full circle. So this is a student from Papua New Guinea that my parents helped come over here when they were serving as mission presidents there, and he got to graduate. I weep a little bit when I see the kids from Papua New Guinea graduate, because I know their living conditions, their situations down there, and to get here, do well in school, and even our kids from New Zealand too. So and now I work with all my colleagues here. It's great to be with them and even get to witness them retiring. And this is Mark James, who just recently retired from our department. And now these are all my students online. In the past and some currently, and I love it. I actually really love teaching online, because I've found new ways to do things. And I'm teaching a face-to-face class, the class that you're in right now, the Peace Linguistics class. And I love to have been in these different situations teaching here, and it's awesome. It's great. And those are the pictures that I have to share with you today.
Yeah, so thank you so much. I love, just a plug for our Peace Linguistics class. I had no idea what that meant before I started, and I know you have a lot of people with that kind of response, but the Peace Linguistics really is about, I really think you should just rename it the non-killing language, right? Or non-killing linguistics. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so linguistics is the science breakdown of language, basically. And we're trying to, the Peace Linguistics class is interesting. Certain people in the linguistics realm might not think it's a class that sort of belongs in linguistics, but we're probably one of the very few undergraduate schools that has an intercultural peace building major. And of all the nuances that you teach in that, language was kind of something that hadn't been addressed from a linguistic perspective. And that's what we're doing with this class. And I love it. And I love that students are learning how to do discourse analysis and really break down and think about what's happening. And for me, it's helped me upskill myself in the linguistics department too. And so,
I think it's so vitally important that the words that we use and that we write, that we get conscious about what we're saying to the world. Like, what are we creating? Are we creating chaos and conflict, or are we creating peace? And that's what I love most about this, and what you're teaching us is really to kind of look at that, analyze it, right? We don't have to like judge it, but
Mhm.
analyze it and say, hey, how can I shift a little bit more so I can be more a peacemaker in the world, in the leadership roles that we're going to have.
And I think too that sort of peace language is really necessary for this online learning environment. You can't just be annoyed with someone who's halfway around the world because they handed their assignment in 5 minutes late, you know. I'm all about the communication. Communicate to me what's happening, what's going on. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. And so, yeah, I feel so blessed to be here. I love walking around campus and seeing alumni, people that I went to school with, and talk about, you know, often when I tell people that I went to school in my undergrad here in Hawaii, they go, how did you afford that? That must have been expensive. I said, oh, actually, I danced my way through university. And it's so funny, people think, oh, look, what sort of dance? I'm like, not an exotic dancer, obviously, but that gives me an in to talk about the Polynesian Cultural Centre and what we got to do with that. And so even when I'm back in New Zealand and students, youth see me and they ask me about BYU, and I sort of probe a little bit because I want people to know that this isn't a place where you just come and holiday and hang out. It's not a social experiment. It's because there's a lot of tithing money involved here. There's people's livelihood. And so I like to find out what their major is. And in some cases, one girl, her major actually, we didn't offer it. And she actually would have been better off going to a university in New Zealand. She would have got better funding. And then there's other students where the school is made for them. And so I love to talk about our campus. Even when I go to conferences, you know, it's the Hawaii that gets people's attention, not necessarily the BYU. But I get to talk about our school. I get to talk about the Polynesian Cultural Centre, our target audience. And when I share that, I feel a sense of, you know, just passing on that legacy. And so I'm very proud of that.
And that's something that we talked about the other day too, and one of the reasons why we put the name of kind of this podcast was raising the profile. Talk a little bit about that and what that means, because I mean, you came back here to give back. So what does that mean, raising the profile?
You know, I shared the story with you the other day. When I was young at intermediate school, the Māori kids were really good at sports. We weren't necessarily smart, but we had to do this activity in class, and we weren't allowed to go out and play sports until we'd done that. And I was like, oh, I'm never going to get out and play sports. And we had a teacher and a student teacher. And the student teacher said to me, oh, you can go outside. I said, well, what about the work? She goes, it's okay. We don't expect you to do well. And I actually believed that. And I was thinking, oh, okay, I'm supposed to play sports and do Māori culture, and that's it. And I actually believed that for a while. So I didn't feel like I had to have the smarts. But as I went on in life and realized, you know, I got an undergraduate degree and I got a master's degree, and I said, no, I can do this. And when I had my PhD, I wanted to raise the profile for Māori women, and here, women from the Pacific, in Asia, our target audience, to say, you can do this. You're not limited at all. And I'm living proof. I wasn't the greatest student at my undergrad, but when I got to my master's level, my first semester, I think I got an award for the highest GPA, which was, I still giggle about that, but it's not about the GPA, it's about the knowledge you gain and the learning. And once I realized that too, it's the learning, then I was thinking, you know what, anyone can do this. It's not just me. And I want to raise the profile for young women here at school from the islands, from New Zealand, from Asia, and say, you can be doing what I'm doing. And so, you know, I want them to see what I'm doing, so that they can exemplify that as well.
Yeah, and you're a great example of that, because we're only as limited as we think we are, right? I mean, the world is our oyster, as I say sometimes, is that we really can have any possibility that we want. I mean, and it gives a great hope to the people. And that's what's one thing about being a student here, to be honest with you, is the stories of the students. And I cry every time, and you probably do too, but when they have the graduation where all the students stand up, that is their first, they're the first one in their family to get an education or to get a college degree. It's just like, I start bawling, you know, it's like, wow, we get to be a part of of something like that and allowing them to get a higher education, no matter where God takes them or wherever their world, their life experience is going to take them to serve. We get to see that happen and to see that light come on in their eyes, that they can do it. I mean, we even have somebody in our department, I won't call her out, but we have someone that works in our department, and she just got accepted. She's a graduate from Tonga and accepted into the program at BYU. And she's just like, I can't believe it. I got in, and it's just like, you just want to go fly, go do it. You can do it. And you're a great example that way.
Thank you.
And I love that you, like many of the alumni, that's another funny thing is that walking around this campus, you go, are you an alumni? Yep, I'm an alumni. I mean, everybody, a majority of the people that work in this university are alumni, whether they grew up here or not. They've come back to give back. Oh, I like that. They've come back to give back.
And I've never felt like I don't belong here. I can walk around campus, the community, and just feel, I love that people say hi to me and people that I haven't seen for years. And I feel a sense of family here. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, any last kind of words of advice? It's interesting because we don't know all who's watching, but what are some of your nuggets of what you've learned or what you've taken or how this university has really impacted your trajectory of life?
I think my advice is to really take advantage of everything that you have here. Opportunities in schooling, at the Polynesian Cultural Centre, the professors that we have here, really tap into that. And I just had a student in my online class send me an email. She said, I'm not too sure about which class to take. Can you give me some advice? I said, yes. I helped her out with that. And for us who are alumni who are still here, reach out to our students in any capacity that we can, so that this place just thrives. It's really about having BYU Hawaii thrive. We might not be the biggest school, we might not have the most wealthiest alumni, but we have big hearts on this campus. And I think that's my advice. Study hard, take advantage of every opportunity, and the sky's your limit.
I know. I love that. Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that is the more and more I get to know more people here, not even just from the staff and the faculty, the alumni, the PCC workers. I mean, they lead with their heart, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, and I actually personally like that it's a small campus.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get lost in the numbers.
Yeah, me too. I do too.
And I like that the professors are really very accommodating and understanding for the people who this is their second, third, fourth language. I can't even imagine doing that. It's hard enough with my limitations, but with the limitations sometimes that people have and being far away from their home, and especially with COVID, and they couldn't go back. Some of them are still here after they've graduated. And they can't get back to their countries, but we still hold them in our arms and in our hearts, and support one another. That's the beautiful thing about this community. So, okay, so Eddie says, let's bring this little comment on. Eddie, thank you. It says, thank you so much, Nancy, for sharing your stories and your journey from New Zealand to Hawaii to Utah and back to Hawaii. Isn't that funny? This whole journey that we all have. Thank you so much, Eddie, for sharing that. Do you know Graham? Sorry, my voice. Graham Hancock, 1976. Your parents were presidents of the MTC when my wife and I started our senior mission. We love them and are grateful for their wise counsel. Thank you for sharing your journey.
And I love that my parents' wisdom goes even further, and so, yeah. And, yeah.
Okay, we've got another one here.
Smasia.
You may have to read that one. Kia ora.
Yeah, she goes, kia ora tainui waka, he piko, he taniwha. And I think Marcia's from, we're all under that Tainui tribe. And so, yeah.
Nice. It's awesome to hear your journey story, Nance.
Thank you.
See all your pictures, familiar faces, your mom and dad, throwbacks to TV and college. Thank you for your example. Maybe you can do it too one day. I told Eddie the other day, I said, we need to put you guys all back on the stage.
Yeah.
I I know you guys did this several years ago, I think in the senior. I found somewhere in 2008, I think you guys did a senior show, or some people brought some of the dancers back.
I actually haven't danced since the day I left Night Show. I haven't danced back on stage there at all.
Are you serious?
And I'm okay with that.
One of the things I loved about looking at the senior show, if you go on YouTube and put up senior show, Polynesian Culture Center, whoever filmed it did a really great job of filming people's faces. Because sometimes in this night show, you're so far back and you can't quite see who's there. But I was like, I know that one, that one, that one, that one. And that's like 20 years ago or whatever it was. Not 20, it was 15, I guess. But yeah, I can only imagine that those are some good times back then, and to relive them, even for a brief moment, would mean a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, thank you so much for joining us today, Nancy. And thanks for always doing all your service and, helping me too when when I'm not perfect at schooling. So I can only imagine how you are with the other students. But we want to thank Nancy for coming on the show today. And want to thank everyone else for joining us and for another week of the Aloha Friday. You can join us every Friday at 3 p.m. at Hawaiian Standard Time. This is a podcast that is done every week by the Ho'okele Department, and it's kind of the alumni relations, because we really want to be able to tell the stories of the alumni. And it's fun to hear the old stories, watch the videos, see the pictures, and things. And we also I wanted to just tell you quickly, because we didn't get the ad out soon, probably will be today, is that we are starting another podcast. It's going to be a student run. His name's Daryl, and Josh, I think, are going to be our hosts. And it's called the Cider Mentor, like the Sea Cider Mentor. And it's going to be interviewing alumni specifically that are out in the field, in the career services field, and are doing some really great work. How did they get into that field? What do they do? What have they learned? What was their journey like? It's going to be a little bit short of a podcast, about 30 minutes, 25 minutes to 30 minutes. And it will be on Monday at 1 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time, right here at the same location. Or you can go to our YouTube channel at BYU Hawaii Ho'okele Department, and you'll see all of our shows there if you don't catch them on this Facebook. So thank you guys, everybody, for joining us today. I'm Becky Sampson, the host of the Ho'okele video podcast, Aloha Friday. Thanks, you guys. Have a great day.